Can you provide an introduction to who you are here at ASU?
Sure. I'm Jane Maienschein. I have a number of different roles. I'm director of the Center for Biology and Society, and that is exciting because that involves, it's not just like most centers, it involves research, which most centers do, but it also involves an undergraduate program and a graduate program, and I'm a faculty member in the School of Life Sciences. So all of that is connected.
What was your pathway to leadership?
People like to ask that, and I don't think there was a pathway. I think I kind of bumbled along, and somehow, somewhere along the line, somebody said, "Oh, you're being a leader." I said, "Oh, really?" But I think the most important factor along the way was taking opportunities, and so I was lucky, you might say, in that I was a graduate student, and I started when there weren't a huge number of opportunities for women. But when they came along, I thought, take them. So there was one committee that I was asked to be on with the National Science or the National Research Council, and they said, "Oh, we need somebody who is a woman, who's young, who's from the western part of the United States, who does biology, and you could help us with all four of those categories." And a bunch of my faculty member friends and others said, "Don't do it, they're trying to use you." And I said, "Wait, I think I could use them. If I do this, I'll make lots of connections, I'll meet people, I'll learn things." And so I think that was a first step, and I kind of followed that policy sense. If somebody opens a door and gives an opportunity, don't take them all, but take a lot of them, walk through, and then do what I can with it. So I think that bumbled me along to various roles that are considered leadership roles.
So, what made you passionate about equity?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about equity, other people talk about inclusion, other people talk about diversity. I think from when I grew up in East Tennessee, in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which was segregated racially when I was a kid, it was much more about fairness. And so I learned very early on that equity isn't good enough. I mean, just saying, okay, they're the black people and they work as janitors and they do other things at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Let's give them an equal opportunity. Didn't seem quite right because they hadn't gotten a fair shot to that point. So in order to achieve equity, you need to embrace inclusion, but also develop pathways that would allow people to succeed. So pathways for success is a phrase that I learned from my mom, who was a Girl Scout leader in a racially integrated troop, the first one in the South. And it was, how can we make pathways for success for everybody? That leads to what some people call equity or diversity or fairness.
So now you're talking to your younger self. What are some things that you would say to your younger self?
I would say to my younger self today, so my younger self was a long time ago when it was a quite different world to live in, but today I would say, if I were cloned and therefore generationally much later, I would say be true to yourself. Number one, that's absolutely important because all along the way, so many people said to me, "Oh, as a woman, if you want to succeed, you have to learn how to dress right. You have to do the right things. You have to teach the right way. You have to interact the right way." And I early on said, "Okay, I want to be practical. I want to make things work. But how do they know what the right way is for me?" And so I never quite dressed right. I never got the thing about heels and that kind of thing. And I never embraced trendiness in a lot of ways. So be true to yourself, I would say. And in doing that, also do learn to listen to other people. So sometimes it's easy to get caught up in a process where people will say, "Oh, I want you to do these things, come along and do them." And it's easy to get caught up and think that you know what you're doing, but stopping to listen and learn first is really important. So those two messages.
How do you see your current role in supporting equity?
I think the the same holds about equity, fairness. So I think that you're really working at understanding. So starting with listening for any student, any colleague, any faculty member, anybody in the public I interact with, start with listening and finding out who are they, where are they, what are their goals, what are their interests, how can I communicate with them, how can I connect with them. I learned a lot about that when I was working as science advisor for our Congressman, Matt Salmon, and you disagree with a lot of people, so you have to learn and understand what they're thinking, what some people have started to call generous thinking along with critical thinking is really important. And then with that listening, you can understand what people need, and so can help to achieve equity by, again, promoting those pathways for success for people so that we get equity of results in the end, but we've given fairness and an extra boost where needed for everybody or anybody along the way.
Thanks. Do you have any final remarks that you'd like to make?
I think that being at ASU is super exciting, and I think when Michael Crow came, a lot of people thought, here's a guy who has a passion, he has a vision, and he's going to force it on us somehow. But I think Michael actually is great at really listening to people, understanding what people need, and his message of inclusion is one that's come from his really thinking about what that means and what that means for everybody. And he's super supportive of this Advance initiative and others. I think that's really important. So yay, ASU.